Vasudevaya Narayana Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiriye Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. So continuing with the discussion on Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 11, Chapter 17, Lord Krishna's description of the Varnashram system. Text number 24 onwards. Snana bhojana homeshu japochare chavagyata na chindyan nakaro mani kaksho pasthagatanapi. A brahmachari should always remain silent while bathing, eating, attending sacrificial performances, chanting japa, or passing stool and urine. He should not cut his nails and hair, including the armpit and pubic hair. Wow. He should not cut his nail and hair. Narad Muni gives a similar technical description of Vedic brahmachari life in Canto 7, Chapter 12 of Srimad Bhagavatam. Reto navakire jatu brahma vrata dhara swayam avakirane avgayapsu yatasu stri padam japet. One observing the vow of celibate brahmachari life should never pass semen. If the semen by chance spills out by himself, the brahmachari should immediately take bath in water, control his breath by pranayama and chant the Gayatri mantra. Agni Arkacharya Govipra Guru Vriddha Suran Shuchi Samahit Upasita Sandhya Dve Yat Vagjapan. Purified and fixed in consciousness, the brahmachari should worship the fire god, sun, acharya, cows, brahmins, guru, elderly, respectable persons, and demigods. He should perform such worship at sunrise and sunset without speaking, but by silently chanting or murmuring the appropriate mantras. Acharya mam vijaniyan mam manyat karhi chitna marti buddhya suyeta sarva deva mayo guru. One should know the acharya as myself and never disrespect him in any way. One should not envy him, thinking him an ordinary man, for he is a representative of all the demigods. So, very, very important shloka to learn about Guru or Acharya. So Prabhupada has given a commentary on this verse because it appears in Chaitanya Charitamrita also. So this is a verse, Prabhupada says, this is a verse from Srimad Bhagavatam spoken by Lord Krishna when he was questioned by Uddhava regarding the four social and spiritual orders of the society. He was specifically instructing how a brahmachari should behave under the care of a spiritual master. A spiritual master is not an enjoyer of facilities offered by his disciples. He is like a parent. Without the attentive service of his parents, a child cannot grow to manhood. Similarly, without the care of the spiritual master, one cannot rise to the plane of transcendental service. The spiritual master is also called Acharya, or a transcendental professor of spiritual science. So Acharya also means one who teaches by his acharan, by his practice. Manu Samhita explains the duties of an Acharya, describing that a bona fide spiritual master accepts charge of disciples, teaches them the Vedic knowledge with all its intricacies, and gives them the second birth. The ceremony performed to initiate a disciple into the study of spiritual science is called Upaniti, or the function that brings one nearer to the spiritual master. One who cannot be brought nearer to a spiritual master cannot have a sacred thread, and thus he is indicated to be a Shudra. The sacred thread worn on the body of a Brahman, Kshatriya, or Vaishya is a symbol of initiation by the spiritual master. It's worth nothing if worn merely to boast of high parentage. Sorry. So sacred thread or the Janeu, which is called. So it is worn by Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya after initiation. Of course, in ISKCON, it is after Brahman Diksha, one wears the sacred thread, and then he can chant Gayatri on that sacred thread. But that is also, earlier it was, the rule was Harinam Diksha, Brahman Diksha on the same day. But Prabhupada changed this rule because he had to give Harinam Diksha just in the beginning to get the devotees serious about chanting. And then later when they were more serious, and it became a custom that if one wants to do deity worship, then he has to be Brahman initiated, or if one wants to cook for the deities in the temple, one has to be Brahman initiated. So earlier it was both Diksha at the same time, on the same day. Because Prabhupada got on the same day, and Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj gave everything on the same day. But Prabhupada had to change the rules a little bit to facilitate everybody into this process. The duty of the spiritual master is to initiate a disciple with the sacred thread ceremony, and after this sanskar or purificatory process, the spiritual master actually begins to teach the disciple about the Vedas. A person born as a Shudra is not barred from such spiritual initiation, provided he is approved by the spiritual master, who is duly authorized to award a disciple the right to a Brahman if he finds him perfectly qualified. So it's not the birth which family is born in, it's how qualified he is. Also, like yesterday we were saying, Mahaprabhu said, everybody in Kali Yuga is born Shudra, Kalo Shudra Sambhava. But then later he says, Sanskarat Bhavet Dvija. Sanskar, by purification, one can become a Dvija, second born, twice born, or Brahman. Or twice born could be Brahman, Kshatriya, or Vaishya. So we are born as Shudra, but by training. Now, training depends upon how qualified are we to go through the training. That's all. There is no restriction on whether somebody from outside India, they can be trained or not. Of course, the Brahmins of India, the Smarta Brahmins, they always criticize Prabhupada for giving not just initiation, for giving even sannyas initiation to devotees born outside India. But Prabhupada said this is all based on scriptures. There's one place, I believe, Hari Bhakti Vilas, where Sanatana Goswami says, just like a bell metal, when it is combined with mercury, it turns into gold. Similarly, a person born outside the Varnashram system, when it comes in contact with the proper instructions of spiritual master and initiation process, he can become a Brahman. So based on that, Prabhupada said, yes, see, Shastras speak about it, and I'm following the scriptures. In the Vayu Purana, an Acharya is defined as one who knows the import of all the Vedic literatures, abides by the rules and regulations, and teaches his disciples to act in the same way. Only out of his immense compassion does the personality of Godhead reveal himself as a spiritual master. Therefore, in the dealings of an Acharya, there are no activities but those of transcendental loving service to the Lord. He is the Supreme Personality of Sarvaita Godhead. See, Prabhupada used this word, Sarvaita Godhead. So Acharya is not God. Acharya is servant God. Krishna is God to be served. It is worthwhile to take shelter of such a steady devotee who is called Ashraya Vigraha, the manifestation or form of the Lord of whom one must take shelter. If one poses himself as an Acharya but does not have an attitude of servitorship to the Lord, he must be considered an offender. And this offensive attitude disqualifies him from being an Acharya. So he is never a god. Acharya is not a god. A jiva can never become god. Acharya, his attitude, his responsibility, his mood is to serve God and to engage everybody in the service of the Lord. They never call themselves as God. So here Prabhupada clearly saying this offensive attitude, that he does not have attitude of servitorship to the Lord, disqualifies him from being an Acharya. The bona fide spiritual master always engages in unalloyed devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. By this test, he is known to be a direct manifestation of the Lord and a genuine representative of Shri Nityananda Prabhu. See, he is not a representative of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Prabhupada making sure we understand. Because Nityananda Prabhu is the Adi Guru. Through whom we can approach Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And in Krishna Lila, Balramji. Nityananda Prabhu is both Balramji, and he also Balramji also manifests himself as Ananga Manjari, who's a younger sister of Srimati Radharani. So Nityananda Prabhu represents both Balramji and Ananga Manjari. So through Ananga Manjari, we go into the Manjaris or the gopis of the associates of Srimati Radharani. And through Balramji, we go to serve Krishna. So Nityananda Prabhu is the Adi Guru. So Acharya is a manifestation, genuine representative of Sri Nityananda Prabhu. Such a spiritual master is known as Acharya Dev, influenced by an envious temperament and dissatisfied because of an attitude of sense gratification. Mundaners criticize a real Acharya. In fact, however, a bona fide Acharya is non-different from the personality of Godhead, and therefore to envy such an Acharya is to envy the personality of Godhead himself. This will produce an effect subversive to transcendental realization. So bona fide Acharya is non-different from the personality of Godhead, not in the sense that he is God, but in the sense because he is representing God, he is serving God, and he is taking everybody in the service of the Lord. So, and he is already a spiritual person. So that way, but he is not God. As mentioned previously, a disciple should always respect the spiritual master as a manifestation of Sri Krishna. But at the same time, one should remember that a spiritual master is never authorized to imitate the transcendental pastimes of the Lord. False spiritual masters pose themselves as identical with Sri Krishna in every respect to exploit the sentiments of their disciples. But such impersonalists can only mislead their disciples, for their ultimate aim is to become one with the Lord. This is against the principles of the devotional cult. So the impersonalists, the Nirakaris, they say we all are God. We are one. So aham and aham brahmasmi, they use all these words. But we are never one. We are never one with Krishna. Means we are not equal to Krishna. No Acharya is equal to Krishna. The real Vedic philosophy is Achintya Bheda Bhed Tattva, which establishes everything to be simultaneously one with and different from the personality of Godhead. Srila Raghunath Das Goswami confirms that this is the real position of a bona fide spiritual master, and says that one should always think of the spiritual master in terms of his intimate relationship with Mukunda, Sri Krishna. Srila Jiva Goswami in his Bhakti Sandarbha has clearly defined that a pure devotee's observation of the spiritual master and Lord Shiva as one with the personality of God, it exists in terms of their being very dear to the Lord, not identical with him in all respects. Following in the footsteps of Srila Raghunath Das Goswami and Srila Jeev Goswami, later acharyas like Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur have confirmed the same truths. In his prayers to the spiritual master, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur confirms that all the revealed scriptures except the spiritual master to be identical with the personality of Godhead because he's very dear and confidential servant of the Lord. Very dear and confident. Sakshat Dharitvena Samasta Shastra. So that way he is identical, not that he is Krishna, he is God. Gaudiya Vaishnavas therefore worship Srila Gurudev, the spiritual master, in the light of his being the survivor of the personality of Godhead. In all the ancient literatures of devotional service and in the more recent songs of Srila Narottam Das Thakur, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur and other unalloyed Vaishnavas, the spiritual master is always considered to be either one of the confidential associates of Srimati Radharani or a manifested representation of Srila Nityananda Prabhu. So, because then through them we can go and serve Krishna. We cannot serve Krishna directly. We have to go through Guru. Sayam pratarupani bhaksham tasmai nivedaya yachanyadyapi anugyatam upayunjita samyataha. In the morning and evening, one should collect foodstuffs and other articles and deliver them to the spiritual master. Then, being self-controlled, one should accept for oneself that which is allotted by the acharya. And this is for a brahmachari. One who desires to receive the mercy of a bona fide spiritual master should not be eager to accumulate the paraphernalia of sense gratification. Rather, whatever one is able to collect, one should offer at the lotus feet of the acharya. Being self-controlled, one should humbly accept that which is allotted by the bona fide spiritual master. Every living entity must ultimately be trained to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But until one has become expert in the techniques of spiritual service, one should offer everything to the spiritual master who is completely realized in the process of worshipping the Lord. When the spiritual master sees that the disciple is advanced in Krishna consciousness, he then engages the disciple in directly worshipping the personality of Godhead. A bona fide spiritual master does not use anything for his personal sense gratification and entrusts to his disciple only as much material opulence as a disciple can properly offer to the lotus feet of the Lord. The example may be given that when an ordinary father tries to train his son in business and other material activities, he entrusts to the son only as much wealth as the son can intelligently engage in profitable enterprises without foolishly wasting the father's hard-earned money. Similarly, the bona fide spiritual master teaches his disciple to worship the Lord, and an immature disciple must simply deliver everything to the lotus feet of the Guru, just as an immature child does not keep a personal bank account, but rather receives his maintenance from the father who trains the son to be responsible. If one cheats oneself by defying the order of a bona fide spiritual master or Krishna, one certainly becomes a non-devotee or sense enjoyer and falls from the spiritual path. Therefore, one should be trained to serve a bona fide spiritual master and thus become mature in Krishna consciousness. So this is the whole idea, to make progress. And this progress in spiritual science, it's only possible by following the orders, the instructions of a bona fide spiritual master. Because spiritual master knows, a bona fide spiritual master, he knows where do we stand and how fast and how much progress we have to make or we should make. So he teaches or trains his disciple accordingly. Shushrushmana acharyam sadopasit nichavat yana shayyasan sthaner nati dure kritanjali. While engaging in serving the spiritual master, one should remain as a humble servant. Then thus, when the Guru is walking, the servant should humbly walk behind. When the Guru lies down to sleep, the servant should also lie down nearby. And when the Guru has awakened, the servant should sit near him, massaging his lotus feet and rendering other similar services. When the Guru is sitting down on his asana, the servant should stand nearby with folded hands, awaiting the Guru's order. In this way, one should always worship the spiritual master. And can we imagine Prabhupada taught all this to his disciples in America, in Europe, in all over the world from scratch. Even if we are born in India, but we had some idea, but not a whole lot. What should be the relationship between Guru and disciple? And Prabhupada taught everything from scratch. And how wonderfully he trained his disciples. Evam vrito gurukule vased bhog vivarjitah vidya samapyate yavat bibhrad vratam akhanditam. Until the student has completed his Vedic education, he should remain engaged in the ashram of the spiritual master. Should remain completely free of material sense gratification and should not break his vow of celibacy. This verse describes the Upkuruvana Brahmachari who enters Grihastha ashram or family life after completing his Vedic education. The word Evam Vrita indicates that although one may eventually marry and become prominent in the society as an intellectual, politician, or businessman, during student life, one must remain without false prestige as a humble servant of the bona fide spiritual master. The Naistiki Brahmachari who never marries is described in the following verse. Yadyaso chandasam lokam arokshan brahma vishtapam gurave vinyase teham swadhyayartham brihadvritaha. If the Brahmachari student desires to ascend to the Maharloka or Brahmaloka planets, then he should completely surrender his activities to the spiritual master and observing the powerful vow of perpetual celibacy, dedicate himself to superior Vedic studies. So one who desires a supreme perfection of life must engage his body, mind, and words in the service of bona fide spiritual master. One desiring elevation to superior planets such as Brahmaloka and Maharloka must fully engage in the spiritual master's service. We can thus imagine the sincerity of purpose and service required to achieve the Krishna Loka planet, which lies far beyond the material universe. Of course, sincerity of purpose and service is there, but at the same time, mercy of Guru is there. Mercy of Acharya, mercy of Krishna, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Nityananda Prabhu is there for us to make any progress. So I guess we can stop here. See anybody has any questions or comments?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, Adi means two things. Adi Guru is like what? Adi, the word hai.
Adi means original Guru.
Original means like all Gurus are original.
All Gurus get their knowledge from somewhere. Original Guru doesn't get his knowledge from anywhere. He has the knowledge.
Okay. Okay.
So
Understood.
original Guru or first Guru, from him comes all the knowledge. Of course, everything comes from Krishna, but Balramji or Nityanand Prabhu is Adi Guru because he personally imparts this knowledge to others.
Okay. Understood, Prabhuji. Thank you very much.
Okay, Mata. Chalo. You all have a safe and wonderful day. Hare Krishna. Jai Shri.
Jai Shri Prabhupada.